A sudden earthquake struck. My military doctor boyfriend abandoned me, broken-legged beneath the rubble, choosing instead to save his unharmed childhood sweetheart. He said, "You can't move anyway, and she's timid and gets easily scared. I'll take her to a safe place first, then come back for you." I watched helplessly as he carried another woman away. In the aftershocks, I was struck by a slab of concrete, completely losing one of my legs. Marcus became a nationally celebrated hero. Upon his return home, he demanded to see me. He thought I would be sitting in the audience, looking up to him in admiration. Little did he know, I would be speaking on stage as a military spouse representative. When he saw me with another man, he was devastated. "Did you just marry anyone out of spite to get back at me?" I gave a slight smile, stroking the arm patch of the man beside me. "No, I married for love." After learning I was pregnant, my first thought was to tell Marcus. But I unexpectedly stumbled upon him being intimate with Luna, his childhood sweetheart. Furious, I immediately got into an argument with them right there in the hospital. Just then, without warning, the entire building began to shake violently. The screams and cries of patients and family members instantly filled the entire hallway. "Earthquake! Run!" In the chaos, Luna and I were both struck by a collapsing wall behind us. Everything went black, and I lost consciousness completely. I don't know how much time passed. I woke up to an excruciating pain. All around me was choking dust and smoke and endless darkness. The air was filled with an eerie smell, a bizarre mix of blood and disinfectant. I tried to move, and a searing, tearing pain shot through my left leg. Only then did I realize I was pinned down by a massive prefabricated slab, completely unable to move. My leg. It must be broken. Fighting back tears, I screamed for help with all my might. "Help! Is anyone there?" Time ticked by, second by second. Just as I was on the verge of despair, a flashlight beam pierced the darkness and shone on my face. "Grace!" It was Marcus. His face was covered in dust, his military fatigues torn, yet he still stood tall and steady. A surge of hope ignited within me, and tears welled up instantly. "Marcus, I'm here. My leg is pinned, it hurts so much. I can't move." He rushed over, and when he saw my bloody and mangled leg pinned beneath the slab, his expression drastically changed. Just as he tried to move the heavy prefabricated slab, a faint sob came from nearby. "Marcus, I'm so scared. It's so dark here." It was Luna. She lay less than 10 feet away from me, dusted with debris but seemingly unharmed. She was just curled on the ground, trembling like a frightened kitten. Marcus froze. He looked at my pinned leg, then at the vulnerable Luna, a flicker of conflict crossing his eyes. The prefabricated slab was too heavy. For him to save me by himself would take a lot of time and effort. But he could just bend down and carry to safety immediately. I stared at him intently, my heart in my throat. Without hesitation, he turned, carefully picking Luna up from the ground. Luna wrapped her arms around his neck, burying her face in his chest, and sobbed contentedly. "Marcus, I knew it, I knew you'd come for me first." Marcus carried her, walking past me. The only beam of light, following their departure, was about to disappear completely. I watched helplessly as he carried another woman, about to leave me alone in this dark ruin. "Marcus!" I shrieked desperately, "I'm pregnant." His steps stopped abruptly. Luna, in his arms, also stiffened. Marcus turned back, the flashlight beam once again shining on my face. In that light, I couldn't make out his expression, only heard his cold voice. "Don't be ridiculous, Grace. What's the point of making such a joke at a time like this?" With that, he walked away without looking back. I watched helplessly as he carried another woman away. Only deathly silence and boundless darkness remained. The ground shook violently again. It was an aftershock. The precarious floor slab overhead let out an ear-splitting snap, then crashed down with immense force. Excruciating pain enveloped my entire body. In the last moments before consciousness faded, I seemed to hear Marcus's distant voice from outside the ruins. "Grace, just hold on a little longer, I'll be right back." But I knew he wouldn't return. And my leg, my baby, were both gone forever. I woke up again in a dazzling expanse of white. The strong smell of disinfectant permeated my nostrils, reminding me that I was still alive. The empty hospital gown pant leg on my left side had been neatly folded by the nurse, tidy as a cruel joke. Tears streamed silently down my face. I bit my lip hard, not allowing myself to make a sound, but my throat was filled with the coppery taste of blood. A commotion came from the doorway. Marcus rushed in, his face showing the lingering panic of a survivor and a hint of barely concealed guilt. Behind him was Luna, completely unharmed. She had even changed into a clean dress, her eyes only slightly red, looking utterly pitiful, as if she had suffered some immense grievance. Grace! Seeing that I was awake, Marcus rushed to my bedside, wanting to hold my hand. I snatched my hand back as if stung by a viper, and with all my strength, slapped him hard across the face. Marcus's head snapped to the side, a clear red handprint appearing on his cheek. His hand, frozen midair, his face a mixture of embarrassment and indignation. Grace, I'm so sorry, it's all my fault. Luna sobbed softly behind him, tears streaming down her face like broken pearls. If it weren't for saving me, Marcus could have gotten to you sooner, your leg. And the baby. Marcus immediately turned back, comforting her tenderly. Luna, it's not your fault, don't blame yourself. You're a victim too. He turned back to me, speaking in a condescending tone, almost as if he were Gr. Anteing a favor. Grace, don't blame Luna, and don't blame me. The situation was critical, I had to make the most rational judgment. Rational judgment? My laugh was hoarse, filled with endless sorrow and mockery. So, your judgment was to abandon your pinned fiancé, pregnant with your child, to save an unharmed childhood sweetheart? I didn't abandon you. His face flushed crimson instantly, as if I'd hit a nerve. I was going to go back after saving Luna. It was an aftershock. What could I do? As for the baby, who knows if what you're saying is even true? I stared at him intently, as if seeing him for the first time. He took a deep breath, as if having made some momentous decision, and his tone softened. Grace, what's done is done. Your leg. I will take responsibility. I'll marry you, I'll spend my life making it up to you, taking care of you. In his eyes, were my lost leg, my lost child, the terror of being buried alive, my near-death despair, a transaction that could be repaid with marriage and responsibility? Is that so? A cool, deep male voice came from the doorway. I turned to look. A tall, imposing soldier walked in, the rank insignia on his arm patch more impressive than any I'd ever seen. He carried a thermos lunchbox, his face stern, yet when his gaze fell on me, there was a hint of gentle warmth. He was the one who dug me out of the rubble, Ethan. Ethan placed the thermos lunchbox on the bedside table, his eyes as cold as ice as they swept over Marcus. You left her alone beneath the most dangerous main load-bearing wall. 6 hours later, my rescue team found her under another collapsed floor slab. 6 hours? I whispered, my heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand. I thought it had only been a moment, but I had actually waited in that darkness, in despair, for 6 hours. Marcus's face drained of all color instantly. He staggered backward, his lips trembling, unable to utter a single word. Just then, the hospital room door was pushed open. A cameraman and several hospital directors streamed in, grinning broadly. Dr. Marcus, congratulations. The city has decided to officially bestow upon you the title of Earthquake Hero. Director, who led the group, excitedly shook Marcus's hand. You remained calm in the face of danger, decisively abandoned the critically wounded who were difficult to save, and prioritized evacuating the lightly injured, thereby preserving valuable manpower for the hospital. This spirit of prioritizing the greater good is something all of us should learn from. A hero? I looked at Marcus, surrounded by the crowd, his face shifting from pale to red, his eyes flickering with panic and guilt, ultimately giving way to a hint of vanity and triumph. I slowly closed my eyes. So, my life, my baby's life, and my leg were nothing more than stepping stones on his path to becoming a hero. The camera's lens turned to me, and the reporter asked loudly, Nurse, as a patient strategically abandoned by Dr. Marcus, what are your thoughts on his heroic actions? This gut-wrenching question made me snap my eyes open. Facing the gaping lens of the camera, I stared intently at Marcus, and my voice, cold and clear, echoed throughout the room. My thoughts are, I'd like to ask Hero if the baby in my womb was also part of your strategic abandonment? All eyes were fixed on Marcus, waiting for his answer. Marcus's face cycled through shades of green and white, and beads of cold sweat formed on his forehead. He never expected me to expose this in front of the media. Grace. You. His lips trembled, unable to utter a complete sentence for a long time. Dr. Marcus. I looked at him calmly, and pressed him, word by word, are the trade-offs you spoke of my leg? Are the more lives you preserved referring to the unharmed Luna? Is your hero title paved over the remains of me and my unborn child? Director's face turned extremely grim. He rushed over and admonished me in a low voice. Nurse, watch your words. Don't let personal emotions affect Dr. Marcus's honor. This is an honor bestowed by the collective. Personal emotions? I laughed as if I'd heard the most absurd joke, suddenly throwing back the blanket, fully exposing the empty hospital gown pant leg to the harsh lights and cameras. Director, you tell me, is one leg, one life, not considered personal emotion? Grace, Luna cried, throwing herself into Marcus's arms, trembling all over and sobbing dramatically. Don't be like this, it's all my fault. Blame me, hit me, scold me, whatever you want, just please don't ruin Marcus. He was just trying to save more people. She cried pitifully, as if I were the vicious woman who was abusing her power and ruining his future. Marcus, his heart aching, hugged her tighter, finally dropping his pretense and snapped at me in a fit of rage and shame. Grace, haven't you caused enough trouble? I was just exercising professional medical judgment. Ethan, who had been silently standing by, spoke up coldly. His upright posture was like a drawn sword, and his gaze, sharp as a blade, swept over Marcus, carrying the distinct pressure of a soldier. Professional judgment? I recall that protocol dictates prioritizing critically wounded patients marked with a red tag, not abandoning a severely wounded patient trapped beneath a main load-bearing wall, who could perish from a secondary collapse at any moment, for a lightly injured patient, marked with a green tag, who could move freely. He pulled out his phone and opened a. The photo showed the location where I was pinned under the prefabricated slab, circled in red. This is the main load-bearing wall. Anyone with basic knowledge of architecture knows this is the first place to collapse during an aftershock. You left her here for 6 hours. Ethan's voice was ice-cold and biting. By our rescue team standards, that's premeditated murder. Marcus's face instantly went ashen white. He pointed at Ethan, his lips trembling. You're talking nonsense. Who are you, and what right do you have to slander me? Captain is one of the chief commanders for this military district's rescue operation. A stern voice came from the doorway. Ethan gave a standard military salute. Reporting, General, currently addressing some lingering issues concerning a heroic deed. The phrase lingering issues was loaded with infinite sarcasm. Marcus's legs buckled, and he almost lost his balance. He never imagined that this unassuming soldier would be of such high rank. He looked at me in a complete breakdown, his eyes filled with malice and frenzy. Grace, it's you. You found someone to set me up. Can't you stand to see me succeed? Just because I saved Luna first, you want to ruin my life. He shrieked hysterically, pushing all the blame onto me. Just then, the hospital room door was violently pushed open again. My father, David, and mother, Susan, stood at the doorway, carrying a thermos lunchbox, their faces etched with weariness. My mother, Susan, looked at me and let out a heartbroken wail. Her eyes rolled back, and she collapsed backward. Mom! I shrieked heartbreakingly. My world instantly crumbled before my eyes. I shrieked in agony, struggling to get out of bed, but the violent movement aggravated the wound on my amputated leg. A piercing phantom pain surged through me, and my vision blurred and went dark. A strong, powerful arm steadied me. It was Ethan. He didn't even look at me, merely ordered in a deep voice to the outside, guards. Immediately take Ann to emergency. Clear out all non-essential personnel. The 2 soldiers he brought immediately sprang into action. One swiftly and professionally checked on my mother, Susan, and administered first aid, while the other, like a solid wall, with unquestionable authority, escorted the reporters and hospital directors out of the room. The entire process was swift and decisive. In less than half a minute, the chaotic hospital room returned to order. My father, David, his eyes bloodshot, was like a thoroughly enraged lion. He had spent his entire life in the military, upright and unyielding. Seeing his daughter's mutilated body and his unconscious wife now, his blood boiling with rage, he lunged forward and grabbed Marcus by the collar. Beast! My daughter's leg! My grandchild's life! You are responsible for harming them. My father, a retired veteran, still possessed astonishing strength even though he was over 50. He landed a fierce punch squarely on Marcus's face. Marcus staggered backward, and blood immediately appeared at the corner of his mouth. Choked by the aura of General and Ethan, his psychological defenses completely shattered under that single punch. He pushed Luna, who was still sobbing in his arms, away and pointed at her, shrieking hysterically at everyone, "It wasn't my fault. It was her. It's all because of her. She clung to me, said she was scared, said she couldn't be without me for a minute. That's why I saved her first." All eyes were fixed on Luna, who had been abruptly pushed away and now stood with a look of shock on her face. Luna seemed unable to believe that Marcus, who had sworn to love her and protect her forever, would use her as his sole shield in a crisis. Her face cycled from red to white, then to green, and a flicker of malice crossed her eyes. She suddenly let out a piercing, hysterical laugh, pointing at Marcus and shouting at the military district commanders present and the reporters who hadn't yet left the doorway, "Yes. It is because of me. Because loves me. Not." He said he was fed up with Grace, that boring woman. He said his heart skipped a beat whenever he saw me. He said he would break up with Grace and then marry me. He saved me because he loves me. He abandoned Grace because he doesn't love her. What's wrong with that? Luna's words were like a knife, completely tearing through Marcus's glamorous facade of a hero, rêve. Alling the sordid affair beneath. He abandoned his pregnant fiancé for his mistress, leaving her to die in the rubble. Marcus was utterly stunned. He never expected Luna to pull such a scorched earth tactic. His lips trembled as he pointed at Luna, then at me, incoherent. "No, that's not it. Let me explain." "Enough." General, who led the group, finally spoke, his voice filled with thunderous rage. "Take all three of them away." This finger pointed in turn at Marcus, Luna, and Director, the hospital director who had tried to cover for them. "Ethan, you personally lead the team and form a special task force. This matter must be investigated thoroughly to the end. Our military's rescue operation will not be tarnished into a scandal of romantic rivalry by such a disgrace." "Yes, General." Ethan gave a standard military salute, his voice firm and resonant. Marcus's legs gave out, and he collapsed completely to the ground, still muttering to himself, "No, you can't take me. You can't." As if remembering something, he suddenly looked up and frantically shouted at my father, "David, and General, you can't touch me. My mother is chairwoman, CEO of Evergreen. If you touch me, she won't let you get away with it." This final threat was hollow and ridiculous. Ethan walked to my side, took off his jacket, and gently draped it over me, covering the glaring empty hospital gown pant leg and shielding me from all prying eyes. His voice was low, yet it carried an undeniable soothing power. "Grace, don't be afraid. It's over." He turned to my father, David, and said, "Uncle, I'll take you and Grace to rest now. Please don't worry about Aunt. I've already arranged for the best doctors in the military district." My father, David, looked at this steady and dependable young officer before him, a hint of gratitude in his bloodshot eyes, and nodded heavily. Ethan said no more. He bent down and, with extreme gentleness, lifted me, blanket and all, into his arms. His embrace was broad, warm, and filled with a profound sense of security. Leaning against his sturdy chest, listening to his steady, strong heartbeat, my taut nerves finally relaxed completely. Marcus's last threat still echoed in my ears, Evergreen. Chairwoman, the formidable businesswoman known for her ruthless tactics. A new chill crept into my heart. This whole affair, I feared, was far from over. I was transferred to the special care ward of the military hospital, a place far from the noise and prying eyes, quiet enough to hear the rustling of leaves outside the window. My mother, Susan, had been rescued and was out of danger, resting in the adjacent room. My father, David, sat by my bed. This man, who had never bowed his head to anyone, now had red-rimmed eyes and sighed repeatedly. Ethan pushed the door open and said to my father, "David, Uncle, please go rest for a bit. I'll stay here." My father, David, looked at him, his lips moving, but in the end, he only patted Ethan's shoulder heavily and turned to leave. Only the two of us remained in the room. Ethan pulled up a chair and sat down. He picked up an apple and, with a delicate military knife, meticulously peeled it for me. The apple peel formed a single, unbroken line in his hand, just like the impression he gave, steady and dependable. "Thank you," I whispered, my voice hoarse. "No need," he said, without looking up. He simply cut the peeled apple into small pieces, placed them on a plate, and offered it to me. I merely did what I had to do. I didn't take it, just looked at him, and voiced the question in my heart, "Have we met before?" From the moment he appeared, his concern for me seemed to go beyond that of a typical rescue captain for a survivor. Ethan's hand, peeling the apple, paused. He looked up, his gaze deep, and suddenly asked, "Is your father, David? Did he serve in the southwestern border 20 years ago?" I froze, then nodded. He was silent for a moment, then slowly began to speak, his voice carrying a hint of distant recollection. 20 years ago, during a snow disaster in the southwest, I was a fresh-faced recruit just out of basic training. I fell into a snow pit while on patrol and almost froze to death. It was Sergeant, your father, who dug me out of the snow and even gave me his last ration bar. I shuddered. My father had mentioned this before. "That recruit was you?" Ethan nodded, his eyes holding complex emotions I couldn't decipher. "Sergeant saved my life. I always wanted to repay him. Later, I was transferred, and we lost touch. I never imagined we'd meet again under such circumstances. He looked at the empty hospital gown pant leg on my side, his voice filled with heartache. I'm sorry, I was still too late. So that was it. My heart felt as if it had been struck by something heavy, a mix of bitterness and warmth surged within me. Just then, the hospital room door was violently thrown open with a crash. A middle-aged woman, dressed in an expensive suit, with exquisite makeup, but her face full of arrogance and hostility, rushed in, followed by two sunglasses-wearing bodyguards in black suits. She walked directly to my bedside, looming over me, looking down, her gaze like she was looking at a pile of repulsive garbage. Are you the jinx who wants to ruin my son? It was Marcus's mother, chairwoman, CEO of Evergreen. She glanced at my empty hospital gown pant leg, a sneer of contempt twisting her lips. It's just one leg, isn't it? Name your price. Is $100 million enough for you to shut up and get out of my son's life forever? I trembled with rage, glaring at her intensely. Ethan stepped forward, shielding me, his voice ice cold. Please leave. Chairwoman completely ignored him. She walked around Ethan, leaned down, and whispered into my ear, in a voice only we two could hear. She hissed in a sinister voice, "You little bitch, don't push your luck. I'm telling you, I can not only make your son rot in jail, but I can also make your life a living hell." I looked into it. Your father, David, has a heart condition, doesn't he? What if he received a call in the middle of the night saying his daughter failed to respond to treatment? Would his fragile heart be able to take it? And your mother, Susan, who's been a housewife all her life, going out to buy groceries, being accidentally hit by a car, that's normal, right? She looked at my instantly pale face and smiled contentedly, her voice growing even more malicious. Oh, right, you still have one leg left. What if that one also accidentally broke? If you were bound to your bed for every need from then on, what point would there be in living? Her icy words slithered into my ears like a venomous snake, instantly freezing my blood. I stiffened all over, forgetting even to breathe. This woman, she was actually threatening me with my parents' lives. What did you say? A roar came from the doorway. My father, David, had returned at some point and had heard the latter part of Chairwoman's threat. This iron-willed veteran was now trembling with rage, veins bulging on his forehead, his eyes bloodshot as if about to bleed. Ethan's gaze, too, instantly turned as cold as Siberian ice. Without even turning, he calmly instructed the guards at the door, "Escort her out." The two guards at the door immediately stepped forward, their movements precise, their presence commanding. Chairwoman swept a contemptuous glance at them. She pulled a check from her Hermes bag and slapped it onto my bedside table. The number on it was $200 million. $200 million, to buy your whole family's silence. Is that enough? My son is a hero. His life cannot have the stain of a cripple like you. I clenched my fists tightly, my nails digging deep into my palms. It took all my strength to keep myself from losing control. Your son became a hero by stepping on my leg and the life of my child. For that, $200 million is not enough. My voice was soft, but laced with cold hatred. Chairwoman's face changed. She clearly hadn't expected a cripple with one leg to talk back. She laughed, a fury-tinged sound. Good, very good. It seems you won't see reason until it's too late. She suddenly waved her hand, ordering her bodyguards, "Slap her. Teach her some manners." The two tall and burly bodyguards behind her, clearly trained fighters, immediately approached me with menacing faces. My father, David, roared, trying to rush forward, but another bodyguard held him back firmly. Just as that fan-like hand was about to strike my face, a slender, calloused hand with distinct knuckles gripped his wrist like an iron clamp. It was Ethan. He had, at some point, appeared by my bedside, his posture like an unshakable mountain. Crack! The burly man groaned and was sent flying like a rag doll. He crashed heavily against the wall, slid to the ground, frothing at the mouth, unable to get up again. Chairwoman was utterly stunned. She pointed at Ethan, her lips trembling. You dare to touch my people? Do you know who I am? My husband is. I know, Ethan interrupted her, his voice without a ripple of emotion. Chairwoman, CEO of Evergreen. He took out his phone and dialed a number. Leo, help me look into Evergreen. Yes, Chairwoman's husband's company. Check for any issues with their taxes and projects. Check thoroughly, don't miss a single cent. A booming voice came from the other end of the line. Captain, don't worry, I'll turn it inside out. Even if there's nothing, we'll find something. Chairwoman's face instantly went ashen white. Her proudly flaunted status and wealth seemed like a monumental joke in front of this man. Who? Who exactly are you? She asked, her voice now laced with undisguised fear. Ethan ignored her. He just turned to the guards and said, "Detain her on charges of obstructing military duties and deliberately harming a military dependent. The Special Task Force will handle her." "Yes, Captain." Agoo. Ard stepped forward, and the cold handcuffs clicked shut on chairwoman's perfectly manicured wrists. "A military dependent?" Chairwoman shrieked in disbelief, looking at me. "Her? A cripple abandoned by my son?" Ethan took off his military jacket and gently draped it over my shoulders, covering my thin hospital gown. In front of everyone, he stated clearly and firmly, "Grace is the daughter of Sergeant, who saved my life 20 years ago. And she is Grace, the woman I, Ethan, have chosen as my wife." I froze, my heart pounding furiously, a wave of warmth rushing from my core to my eyes. Just as chairwoman was being led away, a young officer hurried in, saluted Ethan with a solemn expression. "Reporting, Captain. The Special Task Force has made a major breakthrough in Marcus's emergency interrogation. He confessed. He confessed to everything." The officer's voice was trembling. He admitted that he had obtained the building's structural plans through internal hospital connections. He knew that wall was the main load-bearing wall, and that it would definitely collapse in an aftershock. He deliberately left you there. He wanted you to die. A bone-chilling cold shot up from my tailbone, instantly freezing my entire body, as if my blood seemed to freeze. I looked at the empty hospital gown pant leg on my left side and suddenly laughed. I laughed until tears streamed down my face. My leg, my innocent baby, in his eyes, they weren't even an accident, but a carefully orchestrated murder plot, designed simply to get rid of me. A warm, dry hand gently covered my eyes, shielding them from the glaring lights in the room. "Don't look, and don't think about it." Ethan's voice was low and hoarse, with a hint of barely discernible tenderness. I could feel him standing beside my bed, like a mountain, shielding me from all the world's malice. My father, David, trembled with rage. This strong retired veteran, his eyes now red-rimmed, his voice shaking, exclaimed, "Beast! How dare he? How dare he?" Ethan didn't turn back. He merely ordered the guard at the door in a deep voice, "Immediately report to the Special Task Force. Change the charge from reckless endangerment to attempted murder. Also, send the interrogation records to the media. Marcus's hero title should be returned to its rightful owner." "Returned to its rightful owner?" The guard was momentarily stunned. "The hero is Grace. It is she who, isolated and helpless in the rubble, endured 6 hours with immense willpower, ultimately waiting for rescue." Ethan's voice rang with conviction. "Yes, Captain." The guard saluted and left, his footsteps firm and resonant. Silence returned to the room, broken only by my uncontrollable, quiet sobs. Ethan's hand remained. He gently stroked my forehead with his thumb. His touch was light, yet it carried a comforting power. After a long moment, I found my voice, hoarse and barely recognizable. "Ethan, you just said, I was your wife." I spoke that sentence, using almost all my strength. I was a cripple, one who relied on external aids even to walk. How could I be worthy of such an illustrious hero? That remark, I figured, must have been something he said in the heat of the moment to protect me. Ethan's body stiffened slightly. Then, he slowly lowered his hand. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he pulled a chair to my bedside, his gaze calm and earnest as he looked at me. "Grace, listen to me. When I pulled you out, you were unconscious, crying out, 'Don't leave.'" His voice was low, as if recounting a long-buried secret. At that moment, I told myself, "I won't leave. Never again in my life will I leave you alone in the darkness." My heart felt as if it had been struck by something heavy, a mix of bitterness and warmth surged within me. Sergeant saved me back then, giving me a second life. Without him, there would be no Ethan today. And that beast, Marcus, ruined you, and he ruined Sergeant's hope for the future. This debt, I muse to repay. He looked at the empty hospital gown pant leg on my side, his eyes devoid of any pity or disgust, only deep sorrow and a firm promise. "You lost a leg, but you haven't lost yourself. You are stronger than anyone I've ever met, and you deserve to be loved." So, Grace, every word I just said was not a hasty excuse, nor mere repayment of a debt. He reached out and carefully took my hand. His palm was warm, as if it could transmit that warmth all the way to my heart. "I am serious. I want to marry you, to care for you, to protect you. I want to be your legs, to walk with you through the rest of your life. Will you give me that chance?" Tears welled up again, but this time, they weren't cold despair, but a warm, moving emotion. I looked at the man before me, his handsome eyes, his strong jawline, and in his deep eyes, clearly reflected, a small, disheveled me. I opened my mouth, wanting to say something, but not a single word came out. Just then, Ethan's phone rang. He answered, putting it on speaker. It was the guard's voice from before, laced with barely contained triumph. Captain, reporting. Marcus has been formally arrested for attempted murder. His mother, chairwoman, is also under investigation for threatening and intimidating military dependents and hiring someone to injure others. At the same time, Evergreen has been found to have massive tax problems and multiple regulatory violations and has been sealed overnight. Neither father nor son would ever see the light of day outside prison walls. My father, David, let out a long sigh upon hearing the news, as if a massive weight had been lifted from his shoulders. I listened quietly, but there were no more ripples in my heart. The punishment those people would receive no longer mattered to me. What mattered was that I had survived. What mattered was that in my darkest hour, a ray of light not only illuminated me but also steadfastly chose me. I reached out, firmly gripping Ethan's hand. Okay. He RD myself say softly, with a heavy nasal tone. Ethan, I'll marry you. Chapter 1 year later, at the military district's annual commendation ceremony. I stood in front of the mirror backstage, wearing the long white evening gown Ethan had specially tailored for me. The woman in the mirror had determined eyes and a confident smile. The smart prosthetic leg, gleaming with a metallic luster, was custom-made for me by our country's top scientific research team. It was cleverly designed to be hidden beneath the split skirt, not only not jarring but appearing like a futuristic work of art, symbolizing rebirth and strength. This year, I didn't wallow in my pain. I picked up my books again, and using Ethan's connections, I got in touch with the prosthetic limb development expert team. While undergoing rehabilitation training, I studied related knowledge, even proposing several key improvement suggestions to them. Now, I was not only the military spouse representative about to speak on stage but also a specially appointed consultant for that research team. Ready? Ethan walked up behind me, gently draping a shawl over my shoulders. Today he wore a crisp general ceremonial uniform, with shining general stars on his shoulders and a chest full of medals of honor. His distinguished presence drew secret glances from many young officers backstage. I smiled and nodded. Ready, Mrs. Ethan, the representative, ready to go on stage anytime. Ethan affectionately nudged my nose. In my heart, you're already the most incredible hero. Just then, a sinister voice came from the corner. Hero? How ridiculous. My body stiffened, and I slowly turned around. It was Marcus. He was emaciated beyond recognition, with deep-set eyes, wearing an ill-fitting, cheap suit. His eyes were filled with venomous resentment and unwilling bitterness, like a venomous snake lurking in a dark corner. I hadn't expected to see him here. I heard that because of his significant meritorious service in he had confessed all of his mother chairwoman's overseas assets and criminal evidence, securing a reduced sentence and early release. He stared fixedly at me, then glanced at Ethan beside me, his gaze filled with undisguised jealousy. Grace, you're certainly enjoying your glory, stepping on me to become a hero's wife. His voice was hoarse and grating, filled with hatred. Before I could speak, Ethan had already shielded me behind him. He didn't even spare Marcus a glance, simply saying to me, "It's getting late. We should head to the front. Don't let trash pollute our sight." Stop. Marcus, as if provoked, lunged forward furiously, only to be firmly restrained by the security guards. From behind the guards, he screamed hysterically at me, "You ruined me. You ruined everything. My career, my reputation, my family. Are you satisfied now? Finding a high-ranking official as your protector and trampling me into the dirt, does that make you so happy?" His frenzy drew glances from those around, but no one dared to intervene. Ethan's expression darkened. Marcus, however, turned his aggression towards Ethan, sizing him up with eyes full of disdain, as if he were something repulsive. "You're very proud, aren't you?" Picking up my rejects. He didn't recognize Ethan at all, or perhaps his reason had long been consumed by jealousy. He pointed at me and cackled at Ethan. "Do you know why she's with you? Because you're an official. You can help her get revenge on me. She doesn't love you at all. A fickle woman like her would betray you for profit anytime." Then, he turned back to me, his gaze distorted and wild, questioning me word by word, his voice so sharp it seemed to pierce my eardrums. "Grace, do you dare to say you didn't just marry anyone to get revenge on me?" Chapter Marcus's accusations, sharp and malicious, echoed through the entire backstage area. Everyone fell silent, their gazes shifting between the three of us, filled with scrutiny and curiosity. I looked at his face, disfigured by jealousy, and suddenly smiled. I didn't hide behind Ethan. Instead, I took a step forward, meeting everyone's gaze openly, and also Marcus's disbelieving eyes. I linked my arm through Ethan's and gently rested my head on his shoulder, feeling the solid, warm strength he offered me. I smiled subtly, tracing the shining general stars on the arm patch of the man beside me. That military rank, 3 grades higher than his former superior, was clearly reflected in Marcus's shocked and crumbling pupils. No. My voice was calm and clear, loud enough for everyone present to hear distinctly. I just married for love. As my words fell, the entire backstage area became eerily silent. Marcus's pupils contracted sharply, the wild jealousy on his face instantly freezing, then transforming into an even more twisted, maniacal laugh. Love? Ha ha ha. Grace, don't make me laugh. He pointed at my metallic gleaming leg, his voice shrill and piercing, filled with the most vicious contempt. You're a cripple, what right do you have to talk about love? He's just pitying you, picking up my discarded trash. You actually think you're something special. The humiliating insults, too vile for words, no longer stirred a single ripple in my heart. I just looked at him calmly, as if watching a clown jumping around, making a fool of himself. Ethan's expression had turned as cold as an ancient glacier. He didn't even spare Marcus another glance, just put his arm around my shoulder and calmly ordered the security guards, "Take him out. Don't let him stay here and pollute everyone's sight." "Yes, sir." The security guards immediately stepped forward, grabbing Marcus by both arms. "Let go of me." Marcus struggled violently, screaming hysterically, "You can't touch me. I rendered meritorious service. I recovered billions in overseas assets for the country. I am a man of significant contribution." He heavily emphasized the words significant contribution, as if they were his last lifeline and cover for shame. Just then, a hoarse female voice drifted eerily from the shadows, laced with endless sarcasm. "Significant contribution?" Everyone turned to look, seeing Luna emerge from the corner. In just 1 year, she seemed to have aged 10 years. Her once delicate face was haggard and sallow, her eyes cloudy, and the cheap dress she wore was faded, completely devoid of its former luster. She stared fixedly at Marcus, then suddenly let out a piercing laugh, a laugh filled with venomous resentment and the grim satisfaction of mutual destruction. "Marcus, your so-called significant contribution was telling the investigation team every detail of all the fake accounts your own mother kept, every shady contract she signed, and every secret account hidden abroad, wasn't it? To get out of prison a few years early, you personally sent your mother to the hell of life imprisonment. You beast who would betray his own mother, how dare you even mention contribution?" Luna's words, like a bombshell, exploded among the crowd. Everyone gasped, looking at Marcus with disgust and contempt. To gain his own freedom, he had betrayed the mother who gave him life. This act, so devoid of humanity, was 100 times more heinous than abandoning me in the ruins. Marcus's body stiffened, the color instantly draining from his face, turning it ashen white. He looked at the haggard Luna as if he'd seen a ghost, his lips trembling, unable to utter a single word. Ethan's icy gaze fell upon him, his voice low but clear, echoing through the entire backstage area, sealing Marcus's fate. A man who would abandon his fiancé in a life-or-death situation. A son who would betray his own mother for personal gain. Marcus, someone like you doesn't deserve to live in the light of day. No, it's not. Marcus's psychological defenses completely crumbled at that moment. He violently broke free from the security guards, not lunging at me, but madly pouncing on Luna. "It's you. You bitch. You ruined me. If it weren't for you, how would I have ended up like this? I'll kill you." The security guards reacted quickly, firmly pinning him down again. And there he was, under everyone's watchful eyes, like a mangy dog with its spirit broken, snot and tears streaming down his face, cursing and wailing incoherently, utterly devoid of any human dignity. As he was dragged past me, he suddenly mustered all his strength to lift his head, his bloodshot eyes fixed on me, letting out a beastly roar. "Grace! I'll haunt you even from the grave. Just you wait. I'll be waiting to see the day you're abandoned." Chapter embraced by Ethan, I walked off the stage through thunderous applause. The backstage drama, like a pebble dropped into a lake, quickly faded without a trace. Marcus's final curse left no mark on my heart. How could someone who couldn't even be a decent human being possibly become a ghost? On the way home, Ethan kept a firm grip on my hand, as if I were a cherished treasure he had found again. I leaned on his shoulder, watching the streetscape rushing by outside the window, feeling a peace I had never known. "What are you thinking about?" Ethan asked softly. I shook my head and quietly said, "I was thinking about the last line of my speech today, reborn from the ashes, moving towards the light. It seems to describe my past year perfectly." Ethan squeezed my hand tighter, his voice steady and firm. "Your light has never depended on anyone. No matter who you married, you would still be Grace, the woman who held on for 6 hours under the rubble, who fought for her own survival. You are the bravest person I've ever known." My eyes welled up, and I gripped his hand back. Yes, I was no longer the girl who needed others to save her to survive. 2 years later, I stood on the porch, watching my daughter's lively figure, a gentle smile on my face. Just then, my phone rang. It was an old colleague from the hospital whom I hadn't contacted in a while. On the other end of the line, her voice filled with a sigh, she recounted some gossip. "Grace, guess who I saw yesterday? Marcus and Luna. They were selling wares from a street stall outside our hospital, cheap socks. Marcus has a lame leg. I heard he got it broken in a fight after being released from prison and couldn't afford treatment, so he just drags it around, worse than a beggar. Luna looks like a 50-year-old old woman, fighting tooth and nail with a neighboring vendor over a customer, bloodied and cursing, looking absolutely awful. Ugh. I heard they live in a dingy basement apartment, constantly fighting and cursing each other, blaming the other for ruining their lives, living worse than dogs. Truly, evil people meet their just desserts." I listened quietly, my heart completely unfazed, as if I were hearing a story completely unrelated to me. After hanging up, I looked up at Ethan. He was intently watching me and our daughter, his eyes so tender they could melt your heart. Sunlight filtered through the rose arbor, casting fragmented, warm light patches on him and our daughter. Serene days and a secure life. Thank you for listening to today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments section. Feel free to share your views, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.